Good evening. Welcome to the Week 14, the final regular season recap, a preview of the playoffs, revealing of who the last place person is, bearer of our punishment, and just an overall look at the regular season. I am your host, I am your commissioner, Jeff Darling, and I am pleased as punch, whatever that means, to come here and give this a little recap. So let's go ahead and dive in because there's a lot to get into. We had so much on the line. We had the final, the sixth of six playoff spots was on the line. We had three teams fighting, battling out for it. And we had two teams that were duking it out, trying not to be last place, trying not to be the one to panhandle the streets of our fair town. So let's get on into it. We had three teams. We had Matt gone on strike, trying to make that playoff spot. We had Team Touch Dan trying to make that playoff push. And then we had Carlos also trying to make that playoff push. And if we look at the standings, we had the same record. Dan, Matt, and Carlos were all at 6 and 7, trying to get to that coveted 7 and 7, that nice 500, on the way to squeak into the playoffs. And the way it was is like Dan led in points scored, Matt was about 16 behind that, and Carlos was about 200 behind them. All Matt, all Dan, all Carlos had to do was win and score a lot, and then it would come down to the point tiebreaker. And unfortunately, when it's a win and you're in, that's usually when things really go off the rails. And on that note, we'll go ahead and take a look at the matchup of the Dallas Jeff Boys taking on Matt's Gone on Strike, who I believe has gone on strike again because this one was decided at the end of Sunday night. After that Sunday night Philly-Dallas game, Dallas Jeff Boys 86.82 to Matt's 82.22. I had the coward's way out, and I pulled my running back and defense from the Monday night games because there was a 9% chance that they would get me minus 4 points, and the Miami defense actually got -6 against Buffalo earlier in the year. As soon as I saw that, Matt, I was like, I gotta take it out. I can't leave this to chance. Turns out that was a silly move on my part. Saquon got 20, Miami got me 9, so you could have lost like 115 to 82. Probably doesn't make you feel any better. In fact, I should probably just stop talking if I still want you to be my friend and come to my Christmas party. So anyways, you weren't out of it. You weren't out of it. All you had to do then was have Matt lose and score less than you, and have Carlos lose. So let's move on to that next one. Team Touch Dan taking on ChatGB Lee. Could you lose, Dan, and keep Matt's hopes alive? Yes, you could. Yes, you could. Not a great game. For 55 points scored out of 113. I believe your bench scored 58 total points. So your bench outscored your starters. Either way, Brandon scored too much. I mean, the way that your team performed, there was no combination of people on your roster that equaled a win last night. So you needed Carlos to lose. So Matt lost, you lost. Although, unfortunately for you, Matt scored 30 more. So Matt would have won the point tiebreaker of points scored in the regular season, if I'm not mistaken. If we look here, points scored, yeah, Matt finished with 1487, Dan with 1471. So that would have just been amazing. Would have been amazing. And I say would have because if we go down the Field of Dreams, Carlos was taking on Team Queen. This one had a double implication. We're going to come back to this game in a second because we want to flip over real quick to Michael Cup taking on the Weasel. Michael has been in last place the entire season. The whole season. The entire season, Michael was just, it wasn't great. You had 3 wins going into the final week, 3 and 10. You had to win, Michael, and you needed Hannah to lose. You were beating her in the point matchup. You needed to win, and you'd never beaten the Weasel before. So what did you do? You blew him out of the water for the first time ever. Saved your skin. 134 for Michael. The Weasel scored 62.98, and now it all came down. Could Hannah win and avoid coming in last place? Carlos scored 120.92, one of your highest point totals in recent weeks. Carlos snapped, I think, I don't know what game losing streak, but Hannah had a shot. It was coming down to the wire. A couple people playing in that Monday night game. unfortunately for Hannah, came up short. 120.92 to 112.36. Michael gives a big exhale, a big relief, because when we look at the standings and we see who's actually in last place, yes, we see a 5 next to Michael and to Hannah, but we look at points scored, and Michael scored 1375, Hannah scored 1320, a 55-point difference, just 55 points. That's, if you go back through, I mean, Hannah, Justin Jefferson, what a terrible first pick of the draft. I mean, you got cursed with that. I don't like having that first pick. It's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure making the right choice on that. In fact, it looks like he made the very wrong choice, because he only played 5 games, and in this game, he gave you 3 points because he got hurt after like the second or third series. Imagine if you'd played the whole game. Not only would you have maybe won, actually you probably would have won, because he would have just, 15 points. You only lost by 8, and Michael would have lost. So like that injury was pretty wild. So Michael wins, Hannah loses. On the flip side of Hannah losing, not only does that mean she's in last place, we'll get to the punishment in a second, but it also meant that Carlos takes that final playoff spot. Matt and Dan fell to 6 and 8. Carlos goes up to 7 and 7 and gets the final playoff spot. So we got 3 teams from the East making it, 3 teams from the West making it, just like the Lord intended. And then we've got 6 teams that will be vying for the consolation bracket. We'll get to that in a second. I just wanted to give just a quick shout out to this. If you log in to the ESPN app on your computer, you can see some pretty interesting stats here. Like for example, you can look at the transaction counter, which tracks how many trades you made, how many in-season acquisitions, how many times you dropped someone, how many times you added someone and activated them. And it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. And what I learned from this was that Uncle Touchdown, Sean, with his 11-3 top record in the league, had 34 acquisitions and 4 trades. So he got his winning record by wheeling and dealing, taking a little guy, taking a ooh, that was the secret. That's what I was alluding to earlier, Sean. That's how you were doing it. And that's your team. So that's one way to do it. Brandon, 10 and 4, first place in the West. No trades, 7 acquisitions. Which, guys, here's the lesson. Next year when we do the live draft, don't show up, get sick, let the auto draft do it, because apparently that's the real trick to doing this. I mean, the interesting thing too, guys, and I want to point this out, is when we looked at after the draft day, it had the final standing projections. Midnight Mike was projected first place. Gone on Strike projected second place. Team Touchdown projected third place. Field of Dreams projected fourth place. Team Queen projected fifth place. Why did I switch to that hand? Fifth place. Overachiever, also known as the Flute Master, Michael, sixth place. And then Greg, 7th. ChatGB Lee projected 8th, slightly above average team, 9th. The Dallas Chef Boys, 10th. Uncle Touchdown, 11th. And the Weasel, 12th. So the interesting thing is, of the top projected 6, only 1 team made the playoff. For the projected bottom half of our league, everyone made the playoffs except for Greg. Sorry, Greg. Greg didn't make it. Anyway, it's just pretty interesting that while the auto draft, while ESPN's smart enough to build a fantastic team for Brandon, it's really dumb when it comes to projections of who was actually going to win. But hey, there was 2 more games that I didn't get to. There really wasn't much of an implication there, just kind of bragging rights. Wanaki Squirrel Salads taking out Jason, slightly above average team, and Jason just had, man, what an awful day for you, buddy. You lost both of your quarterbacks. You lose to Greg, 125.86 to 85.64. And more than the loss didn't hurt you this week, but what did hurt you is having all these injured people, having 2 good quarterbacks go out on injury. Doesn't look like they're going to play this coming week. Should be pretty interesting for that playoff matchup. The last matchup was Sean taking on Tate Midnight. This one was actually really close, 117 to 112. I kind of like to view this as like the passing of the torch of our 2-time defending league champion Mike saying, all right, Uncle Touchdown, I'll let you be first place for the regular season. Who knows what's going to happen in the playoffs? So let's go ahead and get to the postseason. What is it looking like? We have our winners bracket. We've got our losers bracket. within the losers bracket. Hannah, we're going to pause right now for station identification on the Warrenton's Finest Football Radio Network. Here's what the penalty was. We all agreed upon. The loser has to play the recorder in public until you make a grand total of $20 from Mercy, grace-filled passerbyers, bystanders, either way. So it's just the ground rules. You need to have a sign that says, I'm not great at fantasy football. It can't reference that you need to make $20. The wording on it can be whatever. It can be like, have mercy on me, I'm terrible at fantasy football. You'll have a jar, you'll have a hat, you'll have something that you can collect money on. When it comes to the money, you cannot, the $20 needs to be accumulated from strangers. You can't have friends and you can't have family. Just dunk a 20 in there. If they do that, you can keep the money. We're fine with making this, Christmas fund. I'm completely fine with that. In fact, I want you to do so well at this, you make us all jealous and you outperform and outgain what the winner of the league's going to get. On that note, guys, we should probably increase this from a $20 buy-in. Make it a little bit more high stakes, make it a little bit more, for inflation, everything's gone up in price. We've had $20 buy-in for the last 10 years, so we could probably squeak it up to like $22 or something, so we can discuss that next week. Anyways, Hannah, that's the parameters. Also, videoing it is optional, but it is required. So figure that one out, but we would love to see it. We would love to show, we'd love to heckle. If you're doing Culpeper, if you're doing Warrenton, just let us know. Let's make this an event. This could be pretty fun. We could all, maybe you make all that money and then you take us all out to lunch afterwards. That'd be pretty cool. Be very generous of you. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the playoff bracket. We're gonna start with the losers bracket. It's not quite the elimination tree. Every team gets to play every single week. If you look here, you'll see it is seeded. So you've got the top teams taking on the bottom, the top two teams taking on each other, and then just beneath that. So the winners of those, it's a bracket, guys. We'll keep track of it week by week, let you guys know who's in the running. For that one, we're going to do a $5 buy-in, and this is actually good for you because if you're in the playoff bracket and you end up just ultimately coming in 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th, you get nothing back. You lost your $20, you don't get anything. In this one, you do a $5 buy-in, and the winner gets $25 back. Second place will get their $5 buy-in back. So you have a chance to break even for the season. It's a kind of cool little treat there. It'll come down to the best postseason record for that loser's bracket. Now, if we get down to the round one of the playoffs, we've got Field of Dreams taking on the Dallas Jeff Boys, the 3 seed taking on the 6 seed. Right now projected Dallas Jeff Boys 121.8 to Carlos's 97.2. Now I'm preparing for first round exit because Matt beat me last year. This just happens every single year. And I did play Carlos. We played in week 10, if you recall. I beat you 116-65. So this game just smells like upset victory and disappointment and just, everything terrible for me possible. So I'm expecting it now, bracing for it. We'll see what happens. Forgot to mention, Sean is the number 1 seed, has a first round bye. Brandon, the number 2 seed, has a first round bye. Congratulations, you guys. Take it easy. Just, what's probably going to happen for you two is that you guys are going to score like 150, 160 points, and it'll be wasted. Then next week when you do play someone, you'll score 68 and 72. Remember those numbers. We'll see if that happens. The last playoff matchup is going to be the Weasel taking on the slightly above average team. These teams met up in week 2. The Weasel beat Jason 89.42 to 86.5, a very close defeat, and right now it's projected very close. The Weasel at 117 to Jason's 114.5. So guys, that's where things stand. We had a fantastic regular season. Thank you everyone for participation. I know despite records not really turning out the way that some people wanted them to, nobody gave up. People were still trying, still adding people, dropping people, trading people, joining in the chat, joining in like on the Discord channel. Some of you guys need to unmute the notifications and join in the fun. What did you do? That 3 messages you posted all year? Like, come on, be a part of the team, be part of the crew. This whole point of fantasy is it's not to make money. If it was, I should have stopped 20 years ago because I've never won. It's to build that bond, that friendship. thick and thin. We'll keep this stuff going. Even when the season's long ended, we'll look back and say, boy, the memories of these friends. All right, that's enough. I'm really tired. So that's a wrap on the regular season. Looking forward to the playoffs. Looking forward to this. Hannah, let us know. Let us know the plans. We'll all be there. It's gonna be amazing. Okay. All right, everybody. Have a fantastic week. Goodbye.